Holy shit, guys. It's number 30. Episode 30. Here we are. And I did the math because I'm a nerd. And I've spoken well over 110,000 words over the course of these episodes. That is a lot of words. And I'm at the point right now where this is a thing that I do. And I've slowly started to adopt it into my professional identity, which is totally weird, right? Patrick Four, photographer, graphic designer, and now podcaster. It's really weird to bring up in conversations with friends. Yeah, I have a podcast now. I'm just a white guy in my garage with a microphone. You know, I'm one of those guys. And speaking of other podcasters, I had a conversation with a friend of mine. Her name is Leslie. Leslie has her own podcast. It's called Niche to Meet You. You should absolutely check it out. She tells stories. She's an awesome storyteller from people who are just doing really weird and interesting things. And if you ever wanted to hear about wild turkey conservation or speed puzzling or professional Santas, you might dig this. I'll put a link in the show notes for you. She's such a good storyteller. I really do think that you might like it. Anyway, we had a call this past week, and I literally have not talked to her in about 20 years. We've been following each other over the course of our lives. She lives in Nashville, and we really were both kids the last time that we spoke in person. And here we are speaking again, but now we're both podcasters, but she's really good. She's way better than I am. She's been doing this thing for a while. And we were talking about podcasts because that's what podcasters do. We sit around, we talk about podcasting. And one of the things that got brought up was authenticity and voice. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately. I work so hard not putting too much veneer on this podcast. That's what the Terrible Photographer is all about, after all. This is like no bullshit zone, you know? But Leslie and I were talking, and I mentioned another conversation that I had with a guy who works for an NPR station out of New York. He's a big deal, and he's a producer there, and he listened to the show and gave me some feedback. I asked him to give me some feedback. It wasn't just unsolicited. He wasn't a prick about it. He just sent me notes, what he thought. It was his gut reaction. Because out of respect for you guys, I want to make this show better, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. And if I'm doing something shitty, if I have blind spots, I want to know about it. And he gave me his notes. And one of the things that he said, something that's been fucking with my head ever since, is that he thought I was trying too hard. He just asked the question, is how I'm presenting on the podcast really me? Or am I just trying to be something else or someone else? And what would the show be or look like or sound like, I guess, if I didn't try to be anything else? And I must admit, like, I listen to a lot of audio content, a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks. And the podcasts that I listen to are really good. They're really, really good. Like, they're like the popular shows that have budgets and staff. And so that is always the target that I'm aiming for. But it was this kind of feedback that really fucks with your mind a bit, where you go back and you listen to your own episodes with a different set of ears, you know? You hear your own words a little bit differently, how you present it. And I have to say, he wasn't full of shit. I think he was right to some extent. So I've been on this epic quest to peel back more of the layers, to present episodes that are more me and more human. I think the word authenticity is just a word people throw around these days, marketing guys in chinos sitting around a boardroom table like to use that word when they talk about, quote, authentic content or how authentic content drives more engagement, whatever that means. And maybe that's true, maybe not, but perhaps the very act of performing authenticity means you are no longer being authentic. And all you're doing is, performing. Maybe a better way to say it is human. And I want to be more human on this podcast. And being human isn't a strategy. It's just true. So I'm making some small tweaks, some finessing, trying to make this podcast more human. And it only has taken me 30 episodes to begin to ask those questions and to begin to figure it out. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting this thing. It really is such a huge deal to me. And I'm so appreciative for every listener, especially those who have taken the time out of their day to comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or to share it with their friends. It's a big deal. And I'm honored that you would allow me once a week to spend 40 minutes or so in your ears. And look, I'm going to do something right now that's going to make me a little uncomfortable. I'm going to talk about money. All right, here we go. This show costs money to make. It's not a fortune. It's not a rent payment, but it's enough, It's, you got the hosting fees, you got the software, the hardware, the time it takes to research and then write and then record and then edit. And I've been covering it all myself because honestly, I didn't want to think about it. And this is fun for me. I absolutely love doing this. And I've been thinking about this for a little while. And I'm like, do I want to turn this into support my Patreon type of thing? And I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I want to go there. I was exploring some other creative sort of community solutions where you could join a community and be connected to other people. And I'm not there yet either. I haven't wanted to get into that. But I did want a way for you to support the show if you wanted to. Some of you have reached out and asked for the past couple months really generously. And I'm so grateful. But you have asked the question, how can I support the show? And I just really kept saying, well, just listen, share it. Thank you for your support. Rate it if you haven't done that already. And then I began to realize that this is me avoiding the uncomfortable part. Because asking for money feels for me a little gross. It feels like I'm selling something, and I hate that. So here's the thing. If the show is valuable to you, if you find that it's helpful, that it helps you think differently or feel less alone, or just gives you something to chew on during your commute, then I think it's worth supporting. Not because I need it to survive, right? But because it keeps me doing this without becoming the thing that I resent. So I set up a page. It's terriblephotographer.com/support. The link is in the show notes. And you can buy me a coffee. It's simple. And I'm not asking for you sign over your life savings, your retirement funds. You can just chip in a few bucks. Or you could do nothing. I don't really mind, right? I just want to put this out here to the world and hope that it's helpful for people. Really, all those things are fine. But if you want to help cover the costs or just say, hey, keep this shit going, it's there. Okay. All right, we're done. That wasn't that bad, but let's move on. So for this week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I wanted to make us all feel a little uncomfortable because I think that's kind of fun. I want to talk about the shit that you probably never have heard on a photography podcast before, which is a good thing. I'm not a typical photography podcast, you know? Okay, so a few weeks ago, I sent out an email to a bunch of folks, a bunch of photographers that I know. I sent them out to about 30 photographers. I know them personally. A few are fans of the show. A few are people that I work with here in town. A few are scattered around the world. I asked them one question. These are all working professionals, from wedding photographers to commercial photographers to landscape guys. They're all working professionally. What's your dirty little secret? What's the thing that you would never admit publicly? The thought that lives in the back of your brain at 3 a.m. The thing that makes you feel a little like a fraud or a failure or like you've made a massive mistake. I told them that it would absolutely be anonymous. I told them that I wouldn't share their names. I guess that's what anonymous means. I just wanted to tell the truth. And I got more responses than I expected. Some came back within minutes. I was shocked. Some were just a few sentences. They were raw, unfiltered, like they had been waiting for someone to ask them. Others took days, longer emails, paragraphs of context, and seemingly justification. And I can't believe I'm telling you this. Some are a little expected. Some are brutal. Some made me laugh. And some made me realize that I'm not the only one carrying this shit around. So today I'm going to share 8 of them. The most interesting ones or my favorite ones. The ones that cut the deepest. I'm not going to tell you which ones are mine. Actually, no, I will tell you. There is one of them that is mine, and I will tell you which one is mine. But I will say this. At least a couple of these could be mine, but I won't tell you those. But I will tell you one of them. They're all real. And if you've thought any of them, you're not alone. So, welcome, friends. My name is Patrick Four. This is episode 30 of the Terrible Photographer podcast. And I'm calling this one Dirty Little Secrets.
Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you'll save. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one to the grave. If I show you, then I know you won't tell what I said. 'Cause 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead. Why do you smile like you've been told a secret? Now you're telling lies 'cause you have sworn to keep it. But no one keeps a secret. No one keeps a secret. Why, when we do our darkest deeds, do we tell if one of us is dead?
Okay, secret one came from a commercial photographer. Mid-career, shoots for brands and agencies, and the occasional editorial assignment. Here's what they said. I resent wedding photographers or family photographers or anyone who shoots lifestyle work that I consider beneath me. I think I'm better than them because I shoot for brands instead of brides. And I know that makes me sound like an asshole, but I can't stop thinking it. I will tell you that when I first read that, my first reaction was, I admit, oof. But then I thought about it for about 30 seconds out loud, and I said to myself, yeah, I get it. Not because I agree with it, but because I've felt it. Maybe not about wedding photographers specifically, but about some genres, about some people, some style of work that I've quietly decided is less than. And here's the thing. This person admits in their email that it's bullshit. They know they sounded like an asshole, but that judgment is still there. So here's my question. What is this really about? Because I think if you're secure in your own work, what you do, you don't need to tear down someone else's. You don't need to build a hierarchy where you're at the top, your profession is at the top, your genre is at the top, and everyone else is beneath you. And so when you catch yourself thinking, I'm better than them because I shoot X and they shoot Y, I want you to ask yourself, what am I actually defending? Are you afraid that your prestigious commercial work is just as replaceable as their wedding photos? Are you jealous that they have consistent income while you're hustling for the next gig? Or are you mad that they found their lane, something that they're passionate about, and you're trying to figure yours out? Because here's what I think, friends. That's what gatekeeping is actually about. It's about fear, insecurity, the need to feel special in an industry where everyone is just trying to survive. Here's the truth that makes me feel a little uncomfortable, should make us all feel a little uncomfortable. There's no hierarchy, friends. We're all photographers. There's no hierarchy. That is bullshit. Photography isn't a pyramid with editorial fashion from Paris at the top and headshot work at the bottom. It's not a ladder. It's a spectrum. The photographer who can capture a crying bride with honesty, who can freeze a moment of genuine emotion in chaotic, uncomfortable light, has the same skills as the one lighting a product for a brand campaign. It's just applied differently. The value isn't in the genre or the budget or the size of the production team. It's in the execution. It's in the storytelling. It's in the ability to see something and make it better. I'm going to also add it's in the professionalism. It's how we deal with clients and people. It's how we treat people. So, if you've ever caught yourself thinking this way, if you've ever felt superior because of what you shoot instead of how you shoot it, I want you to sit with this question. Why do you need to be better than them? Why do you need to be better than anyone? What would it cost you to just let them be good at what they do while you're good at what you do? Because I think the answer is nothing. It would cost you nothing. And I think it might actually set you free. Okay, so secret number 2 came from someone who's been shooting professionally for about 5 years. They didn't give me much context. They just gave me 2 sentences. I don't know how to make anything original. Everything I shoot is just based on what I see on Instagram or Pinterest or Behance. Whew. This one, I think, just might be the most universal secret on the list. Because I don't know a single creative who hasn't felt this way at some point, who hasn't looked at their own portfolio and thought, this just looks like insert famous photographer here. Because that's what I was trying to do for a long time. Here's what I want to say to this person and to anyone who's felt this way or is currently feeling this way. You're not a fraud. You're just early. Every artist you admire once was someone else's apprentice. They stole, they borrowed, they imitated, they studied the people who came before them and tried to reverse engineer what made their work good. That's not weakness. That's apprenticeship. And the difference between copying and learning is intention. If you're using someone else's style as a shield so that you never have to risk showing your own, then yeah, you're stuck. But if you're copying to learn, if you're breaking it down, understanding why it works, and then filtering it through your own experience, then you're not a copycat. You're a student. Here's the thing about style, about, quote, finding your voice that no one, I don't think, tells you. It's not something you build through repetition, through failure, through making thousands of things that don't quite land until one day without realizing they start to. Your voice isn't buried under all the influence. It's made from the influence. It's the sum of everything that you've stolen, everything that you've digested and transformed into something that could only have come from you. So, if you're still in the imitation phase, that's totally fine. That's normal. That's even necessary. The only question is, are you staying there on purpose? Because it's easier. Because it's less risky, right? Safe. Are you hiding behind other people's styles because you're afraid to risk your own? Or are you genuinely learning, absorbing, building something that hasn't emerged yet? Because if it's the latter, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And the only way out is through. Okay, secret number 3 came from someone who sent me 3 paragraphs. Just unloading. I'm going to condense it, but here's the core of it. Quote, I'm not as busy as I make it look. I've had 3 paid gigs this entire quarter. The rest is spec work, favors, portfolio building. But my Instagram looks like I'm thriving. And I don't know how to stop performing. Because if I admit that I'm struggling, I'm afraid the work will dry up completely. I will say I've been there. And I know a lot of photographers who are there right now. The performance of success is one of the most exhausting things that you can do as a freelancer, because it's not just external, right? It's internal as well. You post the wins, you caption it with gratitude, so excited to work with this incredible client. And maybe you are excited, but you're also thinking that paid gig was only $400 and it barely covered any expenses. And then you refresh your email for the 10th time that day, hoping for some lead, for some inquiry, hoping for something, anything. But the feed says you're thriving. And so you keep performing. Here's what I don't think anyone tells you. Almost everyone's doing this. The entire industry runs on the illusion of momentum. Do you know how many times I've seen photographers post work that's 2, 3, 4 years old? It's over and over again. Just to fill a feed. Just to perform like you're busy. Because I think if you admit that you're struggling, clients might think you're not good. If you admit that you're not busy, people might assume that you're desperate. So everyone just performs and everyone believes everyone else's performance, right? Oh my gosh, the guy's posting another BTS from another shoot. What he didn't tell you is that shoot was 10 months ago. But here's the cost of this whole thing. I think the performance drains us, you know? It warps our pricing because we're all afraid of losing work. That if we undercharge just to keep the appearances going, it's isolating because you can't ask for help without admitting that the whole performance was a lie. And I think the worst of it is it keeps us from seeing our situations clearly because we can't fix what we don't face. So here's what I would say to this person. Stop performing. Not publicly. Fuck Instagram. Fuck LinkedIn. You don't owe the internet your financial reality. But privately, with yourself, with your partner, if you have one, with your accountant, with your mentor, with the people that actually matter, you should get brutally honest about where you are. Not where you wish you were, right? Where you think you should be by now, but where you actually are. Because barely making it isn't a permanent state. It's a stage that we all go through. But it only becomes temporary if you're willing to see it clearly for what it is, to name it, to stop pretending that everything's good, everything's fine, when in reality, it's not. The wild part in all this is that the moment you stop performing, you actually free up all the energy you were spending on the illusion, and you can redirect it towards actually building something sustainable. And look, you don't have to announce it to the world. You just have to stop lying to yourself. Okay, so secret number 4 was short. It was just one sentence. I have one camera body, 2 lenses, no backup. I don't have insurance. I don't have a business license. And I'm terrified that I'm one accident away from losing everything. I used to be that person, right? Early in my career, back when I was still figuring out this whole business thing or just a side hustle that might turn into something, I didn't have backup gear. I didn't have insurance. I had one camera, one lens, and a prayer. And I got lucky. Nothing catastrophic happened during that window, but it could have. I didn't have the money to go out and buy a new camera, right? My camera wasn't covered with insurance. If something happened on set, if somebody would have got hurt, if I would have damaged something, I would have been personally liable. And here's what I've realized about operating this way. It's not always about the money. Sometimes, yeah, it is about the money. You're bootstrapping. You're barely covering rent. A $2,000 backup camera feels impossible sometimes. But sometimes I think it's a belief issue. You don't have insurance or backup gear because you don't believe you're worth protecting. You don't believe this is real yet. You're waiting for some external validation, some moment where someone tells you, okay, now you're a real professional. Now you can invest in the infrastructure. But that moment never comes because nobody's going to give you permission. Here's the hard part, guys. Clients don't care if you're still figuring it out. They hire you to deliver. And if your camera dies mid-shoot, which that has happened to me on big shoots, if your hard drive corrupts, if someone trips over a light stand and decides to sue you, they're not going to give you a pass for being new. They're going to hold you accountable. So here's what I would say to this person. You deserve to be protected. Your work deserves to be protected. Not because you're supposed to have backup gear and insurance, but because you're taking on risk, and that risk should be managed, not ignored. Now, if you're shooting casually, if this is more of a hobby for you, and sometimes people pay you for the occasional gig, you might not need an LLC. Talk to a tax person about it. Don't listen to me. You might not need $1 million insurance policy. That's fine. But again, talk to somebody who knows. But just be honest with yourself, especially those people, right, who are taking client money and calling yourself a professional photographer. People have this argument all the time about what does it mean to be professional. This is what it means to be professional. It's not buying an expensive camera and charging people $500 for images. No, you have a responsibility to them and to yourself and to your family. Investing in the infrastructure doesn't mean you're stuck doing this forever. It just means that you're taking it seriously while you're doing it. You can still walk away, absolutely. You can still pivot. But while you're here, while you're calling yourself a professional, you need to protect yourself, protect your assets, and protect your family. Because you can't build something sustainable on hope and duct tape. Okay, take a breath. I get a little passionate about that. Okay, secret number 5 came from someone who's been shooting for about 15 years. They've built a solid business. They have clients. They have a reputation. And here's what they said. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I would never pick up the camera again. I'm good at this, and people pay me for it. But if the money wasn't a factor, I would walk away in a heartbeat. Mm. I read this and I thought to myself, how many people feel this way but would never say it? Because this really is the golden handcuffs, right? You're good at something, so you keep doing it. You've invested time, energy, all this money, and you've built an identity and personal brand around it. And now you feel trapped. Not because you love it, but because walking away would mean starting over. And starting over at this age, at your age, feels impossible. I don't know if I would quit photography if money wasn't a factor. I genuinely don't know. Some days I think I would. Some days I think I'd miss it. But I absolutely understand this sentiment. Because I think a lot of creatives reach a point where the thing that they loved becomes the thing that they just tolerate. And if they keep going, not out of passion, but out of obligation, the thing that actually got them into the profession turns into obligation, duty, payments. So here's what I would say to this person. You don't have to quit today, but you do have to get honest about what's keeping you here. Is it actually the money, or is it the fear of the unknown? The fear of disappointing people who believed in you, the fear of admitting that the last 15 years were what? A detour? A mistake? Here's the uncomfortable truth that we have to wrestle with right now. The cost of staying actually might be higher than the cost of leaving. I mean, if you spend the next 10 years doing something you don't want to do just because you're terrified of doing something else, what does that cost you? Your energy, your relationships, your sense of self, your peace. Let me flip this around. You don't even have to quit to reclaim your agency. Sometimes just knowing you could leave, knowing you could quit, makes staying feel like a choice again, you know? So if this resonates with you, here's what I would say. Make a plan. Not a quit tomorrow plan. A what would it take plan. What would it take to walk away? A year of savings? A side income stream? A shift in how you work? Going back to a 9-to-5? So it feels less like a trap and more like a choice? The trap isn't photography. The trap is believing that you're stuck. And the moment you start planning your exit, even if you never take it, you become back in control. You're no longer a passenger anymore. You're now the driver. And sometimes that's enough. That's all it takes. You know? Just feeling like we're in control again. Because we know we have a backup plan. We have a strategy. We have a playbook. If we never use it, that's fine. And if we choose to, that's fine too. It's your life, friends. You are not married to this profession. If you're treating photography as this thing that you're tethered to for life, then it no longer becomes fun. The craft is no longer an art form. It just becomes a job. And that sucks. And I don't think that's what photography is meant to be. Okay. Secret number 6. We're getting there, friends. This is coming from a wedding photographer. It's our first wedding photographer. This wedding photographer has spent 20 years in the industry. And here's what they said. I haven't enjoyed a wedding in the past 6 years. I still shoot them. I still deliver beautiful work. But internally, I'm dead. I'm just going through the motions. This one kind of hurt to read. I could feel the pain in their email. Not because it was shocking, but because I think this is more common than we would like to admit. This is about burnout, friends, if you didn't pick up on that. Burnout isn't always dramatic. It's not always a collapse, right? The breakdown, the moment where you can't get out of bed. Sometimes it's slow, it's quiet, it's a slow burn. You just stop caring. And so you open your editing software with the same enthusiasm as you open a spreadsheet. You deliver a project and the client loves it and you just feel nothing. You're just glad to move on to something else. There's no pride left. There's no joy. Just great. When's the next one? And here's what makes it the worst. You can't admit it. Because if you don't love doing this, if you don't have the passion everyone else is talking about, then what's the point, right? You've sacrificed stability for this. You've chosen this life. And now you don't even care? That feels like failure, you know? That feels like proof you were never meant to do it in the first place. Here's what I would say to this person. This is what I would want them to know. You're not broken. You're just burned out. And those are two different things. Burnout absolutely does not mean that you've made the wrong choice. It means that you've been running on empty for too long. It means that the thing that used to fuel you has become the thing that drains you. And you can't love something back into existence. You can't force yourself to care just because you think you're supposed to care. So here's your choice. I'm going to present you with a couple choices right now, a couple options. Option 1, you make peace with it. You treat this like a job, not a calling. You accept that this is a job that pays the bills, that it's a skill that you have, and the skills can be valuable even if they're not your passion. Some things really do exist to fund the life that you want, not be the life that you want. And that's okay. Not every job has to light you up inside. We've talked about this at length on this podcast, right? Go back, listen to the tyranny of okay, permission to quit, right? Dim, not done. This is a constant theme in this podcast. Sometimes it's about just reframing what you do, your identity. It makes a huge difference. Because for me, I think burnout, this is my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. But I think burnout is more about agency. It's about the ability to make our own choices. And when we feel like we are no longer free to make our own creative choices, especially, that's when we get burnt out. That's when the fire within us begins to dim. So the natural remedy to that is to present ourselves with more options, to reclaim our agency. Option 2, you give yourself permission to grieve, to mourn the loss of this love, to acknowledge that this thing that you once cared about so deeply has become something else. And if you want to, you rebuild. Not the business. Maybe that involves the business, actually. But really, you just rebuild the love. You ask yourself, what would I shoot if money wasn't a factor? What would I make if I wasn't trying to impress everyone or land a client that would build a portfolio? Just start there. Even if it's just one project a year, even if it never makes any money, even if no one ever sees it. Sometimes I absolutely believe in shooting through the burnout, because when we shoot our own projects, when we shoot the creative projects that we want to make because we think should exist in the world, we're taking our agency back. We're taking our control back. Because here's what you absolutely can't do. You can't keep pretending you care when you don't. Your clients will pick up on that. People will pick up on that. And eventually it's going to show in your work. You can't keep performing passion when you're actually dying inside, because that is what's killing you. So giving yourself permission to walk away, to rebuild, to admit that the love is gone and maybe it's not coming back. And then decide, is that okay? Am I okay with that? Or does something need to change? Who knows? Those are tough questions, but those are really important questions. Okay, Secret 7. Secret 7 comes from a commercial photographer, someone with a lot of stuff in their life going on. Family stuff, life stuff. It's the kind of weight that makes it hard to focus on any one thing. Here's what they said. I'm not giving my clients the care and the attention they think they're getting. I'm doing just the bare minimum, just trying to get work out the door. They don't know, but I do. This one made me sit with it for a little while and think about it. And here's what I've concluded. I don't think this is about being lazy. This isn't about not caring from the start. This is about someone who used to care, someone who used to obsess over every job, every edit, every detail, and now they're just surviving. And here's what I think is happening. When you're drowning, when life is coming at you from every direction, the work becomes the thing that you can control. Or at least the thing that you think you can control. And so you triage, right? You cut corners. You do the minimum that will pass as good enough. Not because you don't care about the work, but because you don't have the capacity to care about the work and everything else that's falling apart. And here's the part that eats you. The clients don't know. Right? They look at the final deliverables and they're happy. They post them, they tag you, right? It goes up on the product page, the brochure, goes on the billboard, goes in the magazine ad, goes on the website. And the clients are happy. They say great work. But you know that you could have done better, that you used to do better, that if you had the bandwidth or the energy or the space to actually focus, it could have been different. But you didn't. So it wasn't. And now you're stuck in this loop. You feel guilty for phoning it in. But you don't really have the capacity not to phone it in. And the guilt just adds to the weight, which makes it even harder to show up fully, which makes you phone it in even more. So here's what I would say to this person. First, you're not a fraud. You're just overwhelmed. You're just a little overwhelmed. And there's a difference. A fraud doesn't care. And I think that you absolutely care, or else you wouldn't have sent this email and you wouldn't have admitted this to yourself. An overwhelmed person cares too much. They just don't have the resources to act on it. Second, I will say this, your clients are happy. That's what matters. I'm not saying good enough is good enough. I'm saying that you delivered the work that met their needs, that solved their problems, that made them happy. Yes, you could have done more, but more isn't always necessary. Sometimes enough is actually enough. You know how many times I've completed projects where I've looked at it when it's published, I'm like, oh my gosh, especially like 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, I go back, I look at this work and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done this so much better. I could have done this and I could have done that, right? I could have lit this differently. I could have processed this differently. I could have done all these things, but it was good enough. At the time, it was good enough. The people were happy. The gap between what you could have done and what you did do, that's not dishonesty. That's just triage. That's just you doing what you needed to do. I will say this, unless you're just being fucking lazy. It's a little hard truth. You think you might not have the time, and I'm actually saying this to myself too, right? We waste so much time on bullshit, right? We cut corners. We half-ass things, right? We see the thing in Capture One or Lightroom. We could go the extra mile to remove it in post. We don't. Just leave it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We are on set and we see a thing in the background. We're like, it's fine. We could walk over and do it. We're on set and we're like, man, you know, we're shooting and we're like, man, it'd be really good if I added, you know, a rim light to this or a little bit of soft fill. Nah, it's fine. It's fine. We don't need to add another softbox or light to the scene. It just gets complicated. We'll just keep moving on. That's something completely different, right? I think we all need an ass kicking for that because we owe it to our clients to care. And that's, you know, honestly, I see this so much with photographers just not caring. And I don't think this person doesn't care. This is just sort of a sidebar rant. I've seen photographers, you know, tell me, it doesn't matter. They're only, you know, I only charged them $500 or I only charged them $1,000. It doesn't matter. Your name's on that shit, right? You could have made it great, but you settled for okay because of how much they paid you. And we're not talking about, you know, the difference between hiring an LA production team to come light it with cranes and no, it's just taking the time to do simple things to make it better. Don't be lazy. Care about the work. Care about your clients. They're trusting you. Your name is attached to that shit. Don't cut corners. Okay. I'm going to end my rant. Whew. Okay, where was I? Where was I, guys? If this is a temporary state, if it's just something where you're just busy and good enough is good enough. If this is a season where everything is chaos and you're just trying to keep your head above water, then okay, that's survivable. You'll get through it. The capacity will come back. But again, make sure you're delivering on obligations the best way you know how, right? Don't deliver shitty work. But if this is permanent, if this whole thing is permanent, if this is a new baseline, then really something has to change. If you're so busy where you're having to cut corners just to be able to deliver quality to your clients, just ship stuff out the door and you're sacrificing quality because of that, something has to change. Because you can't build a sustainable business on guilt and minimum effort and shitty work. And I don't even think it's because the clients will find out, but because you'll break, right? Hopefully it'll get the better of you. Hopefully it'll wear on your conscience. So here's my question. What would it take to get your capacity back? Not to the client work, but to you. Is it setting boundaries? Is it saying no to projects that don't fit? Is it raising your rates so you can take on less work and give more attention to those who do hire you? Is it asking for help? Is it delegating the parts of your life that are draining you? Is it getting therapy or support or just space to breathe? Is it taking on less things in your personal life? It's being honest with yourself that you're in over your head and that the only way out is to stop pretending that everything is okay, that everything is fine. Because here's what I know, friends. You can coast like this for a while. You can phone it in. You can deliver good enough, or you can even cut corners. And a lot of clients will never know the difference. But here's the thing. You will. You will know. And eventually that knowing will eat you alive. So if this hits you, if you're reading this and thinking, fuck, that's me, here's your permission. You don't need to be exceptional right now. You don't have to give 110% to every single project, but you do have to care. You do have to be honest about what's happening. And you do have to ask yourself, is this temporary or is this the new normal? And if it's the new normal, what needs to change so it won't kill you? Because the work can survive on good enough, but you can't. Okay, secret 8. We have arrived at the end, the last secret. And this last one is mine. Buckle up, Buttercup. Whew. I am terrified that I won't be able to retire. I am scared for my future. And some days I think I've made a big, massive fucking mistake. I have a wife, a daughter, a business that I've been building for years, a California life that is bleeding me dry. And when I look at my retirement savings or lack thereof at this point, I feel terrified of cold, of this creeping panic, because the math doesn't work. I don't have a pension. I don't have a 401k from an employer. I have a IRA that I contribute to when I remember, which is often not enough, or when I can afford it. And every time I run the numbers, every time I use one of those retirement calculators online, it tells me the same thing. You're behind. You're way behind. At one point, I was on track. Right? When I was working corporate and there was that 401k match, it was amazing. And I had my own personal IRA. I was like dumping money in there left and right. But now, whew, that has slowed down. And what makes this whole thing worse is I feel like I can't talk about it. Because if I admitted I'm scared, clients again might lose confidence. Do you see a pattern developing here? If I admit I'm struggling financially, they'll think I'm desperate. They'll lowball me. They'll walk. And if I tell my family, if I really lay it out for Jamie, she'll worry. I don't want to put that weight on her. So I carry all this pressure alone. And in the middle of the night, staring at spreadsheets, laying in bed, running scenarios, trying to figure out how the fuck this is going to work. It's that panic that starts to set in. Look, I know that I am not the only one here. I got 3 emails with some variation of this same secret, same fear. Photographers in their 40s, 50s, even 60s saying the same thing. I don't know how this ends. I don't know what I'm going to do. I am scared for my future. I am uncertain for the future of photography. So here's the question underneath the question. Am I afraid I won't have money, or am I afraid I won't matter? This is a much bigger question. Because for a lot of creatives, retirement fear is also an identity fear. If I stop working, who am I? If I'm not the photographer, then what am I? And if my whole sense of self is tied to the work, then retirement isn't freedom, it's more erasure. Here's the even darker question. Since we've gone this dark, we might as well go a little bit darker. What if I made the wrong fucking choice? What if for the past 15, 10 years, the sacrifice, the hustle, the rejection of stability, leaving my nice corporate cushy job, what if it was a big mistake? What if I should have stayed there, stayed at corporate? What if I should have stayed in the safe lane? What if I should have stayed doing graphic design, which is what I did for the first part of my career? And what if it's too late to fix it? I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer for me, and I don't have an answer for you. I can't tell you that it's going to be okay because I don't know. Here's what I do know, though. The fear itself isn't a personal failure. It's also a systemic one. The gig economy, the erosion of pensions, the elimination of safety nets, the lie that doing everything you love would magically lead to security, the cost of healthcare, the uncertainty of Social Security, like all these things, everything just adds up. That's not on you. That's not on me. It's a structural problem, but it's our reality. So what do we do with that? I get honest. I have to write down the number, the actual number. How much do I need to feel safe to retire, to stop panicking every time I look at my bank account? And then make a plan. It's not a perfect plan. It's not a guaranteed plan, but it's a plan. Maybe it's rebuilding, treating this business like it is a business. It's not just a calling. It's not just a passion. It's not a hobby, right? It's a fucking business that's there to make money. And if it's not making money, then something has to change, right? So what does that mean? Creating retainer clients, productizing services, setting up automatic contributions to a retirement account, even if it's small. It's making the boring, unglamorous choices that lead to stability. And maybe it's acceptance. Maybe it's making peace with the fact that retirement might not look like the dream I was sold, that we were all sold. Sailing in the Caribbean, drinking white wine. Maybe I work until I physically can't. Maybe I downsize. Maybe I find meaning in the work itself instead of the end game. I don't think any path is wrong, friends. But pretending I don't have to choose is what's killing me. Again, there's a pattern of feeling like I don't have agency over my own life, right? I think that's sort of through line through all these secrets. It's not feeling in control. Fear of the future, the fear that I made a mistake. It's not really about the future at all. It's about grief. I'm mourning the version of myself who believed that this might actually work out. The 21-year-old who, bought his first camera, the 30-year-old who turned down stability because he wanted to make something that mattered, the 35-year-old who took the leap and left his corporate job to pursue wedding photography or commercial photography. It's the version of me that wasn't stupid, the version that all of us that wasn't stupid. It was hopeful. We were all hopeful. And now for me, I'm carrying the weight of my optimism while staring at a reality that doesn't match the dream. So the integration isn't about fixing the past. It's about forgiving myself for being young and brave and wrong about some shit. And then making some different and strategic choices now. Not because the old ones were failures, but because now I have new information. And that's all we can do, right? Because when we were our past selves, we were operating on the information that we had. We were operating on what we thought was right at the time. And it's real easy to think back and beat the shit out of ourselves for making a choice that we wouldn't make now. But sometimes the choice that we made back then that we thought it was a mistake was a choice that actually led to some pretty fucking great things. I know that's true for me. I just want to say that if you have felt this way too, if you're staring at these same numbers, these same spreadsheets, asking these same questions, I want you to know that you're not alone. And we'll all figure it out together. That's what this whole thing is for, you know? Okay, take a breath. Those are the 8 dirty little secrets. One from a commercial photographer who judges other genres. One from someone who feels like a copycat. One from someone performing success while barely surviving. One from someone operating without a safety net or backup plan. One from someone trapped by their own competence. One from someone who's burned out and numb. One from someone who's cutting corners and doing as little as possible. And one from me, the one about the future, the one about the fear. Maybe you've recognized yourself in one of them. Maybe you've recognized yourself in all of them. Maybe you're sitting there right now thinking, fuck, I thought I was the only one. And here's what I want us all to know. These thoughts don't make you broken. They make you human. And the reason they have so much power, they feel so powerful, is the very reason they eat at you in the middle of the night, is because you've been carrying them alone. Carl Jung said that the shadow isn't evil. It's just part of ourselves that we've disowned. The parts that we're ashamed of, the parts that we think make us frauds or failures or fundamentally flawed. These secrets, these are a part of your shadow. And the goal here isn't to eliminate them, it's to integrate them. To stop letting them run your life from the basement. Because when you name a fear, it stops becoming a shapeless monster. It just becomes a problem you can look at. And maybe, just maybe, solve. So here's your permission. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be okay. You don't have to be the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. You don't have to pretend anymore. Not with me. Not with yourself. The only thing that you have to do is stop lying about where you are. Because you can't fix what you don't face. Okay, here's our light leak for this week. Here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Again, if you're driving in your car or out running errands or mowing the lawn, just come back to this, but do it as soon as possible. What I want you to do is I want you to write down one secret, your secret, the one thing that you've never said out loud. One thought that lives in the back of your brain at 3 a.m. One fear that you've been carrying alone. It's not for Instagram. It's not for your journal. It could be for your journal, but it's just for you. I'm going to take it out of the dark, out of the basement, out of the shadows. And I want you to look at it in the light. You don't have to do anything with it at this point. You don't have to solve it right now. You don't have to share it with anyone. You just have to stop pretending that it's not there. Because the moment that you name it, it loses some of its power. Not all of it, but some. And that's enough to start. Well, friends, I know this has been a long episode. We are running well past what we usually do. So thank you for hanging with me to the end. So until next Tuesday, as always, stay curious, stay courageous, and yeah, stay terrible.